The day I found out my jewelry collection was gone, I wasn't even looking for it. I came home early from a gallery brunch. The front door was unlocked. That should have been my first warning. I climbed the marble staircase. My bedroom door was ajar. Voices. Unfamiliar male voice. And then her voice. Evelyn. I pushed the door open. There she was. In my bedroom. With a man in a tailored suit. Holding my grandmother's ruby brooch. Reading an appraisal sheet. 18,000, he was saying. Conservative estimate. The safe behind my Monet gaped open, empty. That's how I found out my mother-in-law had sold nearly every piece of heirloom jewelry I owned to fund her son's third wedding. And no, I wasn't invited. My name is Caroline Ashworth. I kept my maiden name much to the family's horror. I married into old money when I was 28, and naive enough to think love conquered all. The Whitmore family has lived in the Hamptons for 5 generations. Their money is so old it has barnacles. I didn't grow up like that. I grew up in a studio apartment in Queens, with a mother who cleaned office buildings at night and studied for her nursing degree during the day. I built my art consulting business from scratch, sleeping on gallery floors, eating ramen, and learning to spot a fake Rothko from 50 feet away. The jewelry that was mine. Every piece. Gifts from grateful clients who trusted me with their millions. Pieces I bought at auction with my own hard-earned money. Some inherited from my grandmother, who survived the Holocaust with nothing but her wedding ring and her will to live. Each piece had a story. Each piece was earned. Each piece was proof that I belonged in this world I'd clawed my way into. My husband's mother, Evelyn Whitmore, never saw it that way. She looked at me like I was an imposter, like I was wearing a costume to a party I wasn't invited to, like I had something she couldn't control. I suppose she was right. The divorce happened 3 years ago. Richard, my ex-husband, couldn't keep his hands to himself. The first affair was with his college roommate's wife. Discreet. Handled quietly. I forgave him because I thought marriages were supposed to survive these things. The second time was with Emma, his 24-year-old personal trainer. 24, I was 35. The entire Hamptons social scene whispered about it over their morning tennis games and afternoon rosé. Richard's indiscretions became the entertainment du jour. But somehow in Evelyn's twisted logic, I was the villain. If you had been a better wife, she told me at the divorce lawyer's office, my son wouldn't have strayed. Right. Because emotional neglect and chronic infidelity are the victim's fault. But I stayed cordial after the papers were signed. For the sake of appearances. For the family foundation where I served on the board. For the legacy dinners and charity galas where the Whitmore name still opened doors for my business. I thought we'd reached a détente. I was wrong. Caroline. Evelyn's voice was smooth as silk and twice as expensive. She turned toward me completely unfazed by the fact that she'd been caught red-handed in my bedroom. Don't look so shocked, darling. They were just sitting there collecting dust. The appraiser, a thin man with nervous eyes and expensive gloves, nodded at me. We just finished the final evaluation. The collection should fetch a good price at Christie's next month. I still couldn't process what I was seeing. The emerald ring I wore when I met Richard gone. The sapphire choker my grandmother wore on her wedding day gone. The diamond tennis bracelet I bought myself after my first gallery exhibition gone. The vintage Cartier watch, the pearl earrings, the Art Deco ruby pendant all gone. Miles's wedding needs to be memorable. Evelyn continued straightening an imaginary wrinkle in her Hermes jacket. And since you so generously offered to help with the expenses, Miles, my ex-husband, was getting married. Again. To wife number 3. I never offered anything. I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Oh, but you did. Evelyn pulled a folded document from her purse. Right here. Your signature authorizing the liquidation of these assets for family estate planning purposes. She showed me the paper, my signature perfectly forged. The appraiser gathered his things quickly, sensing the shift in atmosphere. The truck will be here tomorrow morning for pickup, he mumbled, practically running for the door. And then it was just me and Evelyn. The woman who had just stolen my life's work. The woman who smiled like she was hosting a charity luncheon. You planned this, I said. Planning is what separates old money from new money, dear. You should have learned that by now. She was right about the planning part. She'd been in and out of my house for months, under the pretense of checking on things after the divorce, making sure I was settling in well to my new life, bringing me casseroles I never asked for, and flowers from her garden that I was allergic to. She'd memorized my schedule, knew when I had client meetings, when I traveled for acquisitions, when the house would be empty. I remembered now. The way she'd lingered near my jewelry box during her visits. How she'd asked about family pieces and their sentimental value. The casual questions about insurance coverage. The compliments about specific pieces that felt oddly detailed. She'd photographed every piece, found appraisers, forged the authorization letter, created fake family emergency stories to justify the urgent sale. Probably had the whole thing planned before Richard even proposed to his trainer. The woman had turned theft into a masterclass. I called the police that night. Officer Martinez was polite but predictably useless. Ma'am, do you have proof of purchase for these items? Yes, every single piece. And the alleged perpetrator had a signed authorization, forged authorization. But she's family, ex-family. He sighed. It's a civil matter, ma'am. Family disputes usually are. You'll need to take it up with your lawyers. I wanted to scream. If a stranger had broken into my house and stolen my jewelry, they'd dust for fingerprints. But because Evelyn shared DNA with my ex-husband, it was a family dispute. The next morning, I sat in my attorney's office, the same office where I'd signed my divorce papers. Marcus Chen had been with me through the entire marriage dissolution. He knew Richard's family. He knew their money. He knew their power. He also knew their weaknesses. Caroline, he said, adjusting his glasses as he examined Evelyn's forged authorization under a high-powered lamp. This is good, very good. Good she stole everything I owned. The forgery is good, professional, but not perfect. He pointed to microscopic details I couldn't see. This letterhead is from 2019. The date shows last month. And your signature? He pulled out a magnifying glass. See this. When you're angry or rushed, you press harder on the downstrokes. This signature was written by someone trying too hard to be careful. 3 hours later, I was filing charges. Theft in the first degree, identity fraud, forgery of legal documents, criminal conspiracy. Evelyn's response came within 24 hours. Hand-delivered by a courier in a Bentley. A lawsuit for defamation. $5 million in damages. The complaint painted me as a bitter, vindictive ex-daughter-in-law seeking to destroy the reputation of a pillar of Hamptons society. It included affidavits from society ladies claiming I'd always been jealous of the family's status. Testimony from country club members who'd witnessed my inappropriate behavior at charity events. A psychological evaluation suggesting I was suffering from post-divorce mental instability. They'd done their homework, but so had I. But I had something Evelyn had never expected me to have. Documentation, and patience, and a very expensive private investigator, every receipt from every purchase, every insurance policy with detailed photographs, every gift certificate from grateful clients, every authentication report, every photograph of me wearing each piece at various charity galas, gallery openings, and family events. I'd kept records because I was a businesswoman first and a wife second. I understood the value of provenance. I understood the importance of proof. I understood that in a world where men control the money, women need paper trails. But the jewelry was just the beginning. The trial was set for March. That gave me 3 months to dig deeper. 3 months to answer the question that had been nagging at me since that day in my bedroom. If Evelyn was willing to forge documents to steal my jewelry, what else was she willing to do? I hired Jennifer Walsh, former FBI financial crimes investigator, current private investigator specializing in white-collar crime, the kind of woman who could trace money through offshore accounts and shell companies like Following Breadcrumbs, the kind who costs $800 an hour and is worth every penny. Start with the foundation, I told her. Follow the money. What Jennifer found was breathtaking in its audacity. The Whitmore Family Foundation, the charity I'd helped raise over $2 million for, was an elaborate shell game. Donations flowed in from wealthy Hamptons residents seeking tax write-offs. But only a fraction reached actual charitable causes. The rest disappeared into a labyrinth of administrative fees, consulting payments to companies that existed only on paper, travel expenses for foundation business that looked suspiciously like luxury vacations, educational seminars held at 5-star resorts. Evelyn had been skimming from cancer research donations, from children's hospital fundraisers, from scholarship funds for underprivileged kids, from disaster relief efforts. The money funded her lifestyle. The house in the Hamptons with its 12 bedrooms and tennis court. The pied-à-terre in Manhattan overlooking Central Park. The shopping trips to Paris and Milan. The charitable galas that were really just expensive parties. And now she wanted to steal my jewelry to pay for her son's wedding. A wedding to a woman who was already pregnant with someone else's child. Yes, I had Emma investigated too. 24-year-old Emma Rodriguez, personal trainer at the exclusive Hamptons Athletic Club. Richard's true love, who was 3 months pregnant when they got engaged. The timeline was interesting. Richard and Emma's relationship allegedly began 4 months ago. But Emma had been posting Instagram photos from a luxury resort in Cabo with a mysterious M for the past 6 months. And that M wasn't Richard. DNA didn't lie. Neither did financial records, or hotel receipts, or the fact that M turned out to be Marcus Henley, a married hedge fund manager, with 3 kids and a wife who definitely didn't know about his pregnant girlfriend. Court day arrived gray and cold. March in New York. Perfect weather for exposing rich people's dirty secrets. I wore my grandmother's pearl necklace, the one piece Evelyn hadn't found, because I kept it in a safety deposit box. The one Nana had hidden in her hair when the Nazis came for her family in Prague. The one that had survived concentration camps, immigration, and decades of poverty before landing around my neck. Some things are worth more than money. Some things are worth fighting for. The courtroom was packed. Hampton society loves a good scandal almost as much as they love their tax deductions. I spotted familiar faces in the gallery. Women who'd smiled at me at charity luncheons. Men who'd bought art through my firm. People who were about to discover that their charitable donations had been funding Evelyn's Hermes habit. Evelyn sat at the defendant's table in a navy Chanel suit, perfectly pressed, perfectly coiffed. perfectly confident that her money and connections would save her. She hadn't counted on Jennifer Walsh, or the boxes of evidence we'd compiled, or the fact that I'd spent 3 months becoming an expert in financial fraud. Her lawyer was exactly what you'd expect. Harrison Webb III, 3-piece suit, Yale Law School. Grandfather founded the firm in 1923. The kind of man who'd never worked a day in his life but somehow thought he understood struggle. Your Honor. Webb began, "This is a vindictive attack by a woman who cannot accept that her marriage failed. Mrs. Ashworth seeks to destroy the reputation of one of Hampton's most charitable families. He painted me as unstable, jealous, driven by spite rather than justice. Mrs. Whitmore has dedicated her life to philanthropy," he continued. "She has raised millions for worthy causes. She is a pillar of the community." Marcus stood for our opening statement. He was calm, methodical, devastating. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," he said, "this case is about 3 things: theft, fraud, and betrayal." He walked them through the evidence, document by document, receipt by receipt, expert testimony on the forged signature, bank records showing Evelyn's desperate financial situation despite her wealthy appearance. Then came the foundation evidence. The courtroom went dead silent when Jennifer Walsh took the stand. Former FBI agent, 20 years investigating financial crimes, the kind of credentials that make juries pay attention. "In my professional opinion," Jennifer testified, "the Whitmore Family Foundation shows clear indicators of charity fraud. Over the past 5 years, approximately 60% of donations were diverted from their stated charitable purposes." She explained the shell companies, the fake consulting fees, the personal expenses disguised as foundation business. "How much money are we talking about?" Marcus asked. "Conservative estimate $1.2 million. The gallery erupted. Whispers became gasps. Gasps became outright conversations. I watched Evelyn's face. The confident mask slipped. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her water glass. For the first time in 3 years, she looked genuinely afraid. Webb tried to recover during cross-examination. "Agent Walsh, isn't it possible these were legitimate business expenses?" "No." "How can you be so certain?" Jennifer pulled out a photograph. "This is Mrs. Whitmore at a spa in Switzerland. The foundation paid for this trip as an educational seminar on international philanthropy. The spa offers no such seminars." Another photograph. "This is a receipt for a $20,000 handbag purchased in Paris, charged to the foundation as office supplies." Another. "Designer shoes listed as conference materials." Another. "A $50,000 necklace described as fundraising equipment." The jury was riveted. Evelyn was finished. But I wasn't done yet. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. Guilty on all counts. But the real victory wasn't the money. It was what happened next. The Hamptons Charity Foundation launched an investigation. Every organization Evelyn had been involved with demanded audits. The IRS opened an inquiry. The Attorney General's office started looking into charity fraud. Within a week, Evelyn's name was stripped from every gala invitation list. Her memberships to exclusive clubs were quietly revoked. Her social circle evaporated like morning fog. Richard's wedding was postponed indefinitely. Emma left him when the pregnancy scandal broke. She was smart enough to get a DNA test before the birth. The baby wasn't Richard's. The jewelry was returned to me piece by piece. Every emerald, every diamond, every story. But I sold most of it anyway. Donated the money to the charities Evelyn had robbed. Kept only my grandmother's pieces and a few others with personal meaning, because I'd learned something important that day in court. Real power isn't wearing expensive jewelry. Real power is knowing exactly what you're worth and being willing to fight for it. I still see Evelyn sometimes, at the grocery store in town. She looks smaller now, older, like a woman who finally understands that money can't buy everything. She nods when she sees me. I nod back. We both know the score. The only thing I wear to these encounters is my grandmother's pearl necklace. The one that survived the Holocaust. The one that survived Evelyn Whitmore. The one that reminds me that sometimes the most valuable things aren't the ones that cost the most. They're the ones that cost everything to keep.